Welcome to this Spark plugin. I'm going to walk you through a little tool we use to get workshops going, to get the sense of idea generation flowing, and it's something that people really relate to. We can't claim credit for this tool, it's been around for a little while, and if you look up on Google value discipline, you can get a lot more detail behind it. So just to kick us off, the idea of the value discipline is to help organizations unpack what customers really want from them, what they demand from them, and more importantly, how they can structure themselves and their cultures to deliver this value proposition consistently. Now, the theory basically says that if you look at this triangle behind me, and we'll go over to this pink one over on the side, that an organization can be really good at any two of these three domains, but can't be good at all three. So let me explain the domains a little bit, and that might get us started. The first domain over here is called product leadership. Some people call that innovation. The idea is that an organization is known for the products that it brings to market. In fact, it takes a leadership position. It sometimes generates products that the market doesn't expect and is delighted by. Many times in workshops when we ask people, who do you think, what kind of companies would live in this world? Who do you think they guess? Often it's Apple. When I was a young whipper, the companies that used to be up there were Nokia and 3M. If you have a look on, again, Google Nokia and 3M innovation, you'll find some really interesting products that these organizations took to market. Look up the products and the origins of sticky notes and sandpaper, and you'll learn a lot about these companies. If we go over to the top right, we've got the idea of customer intimacy. These companies or organizations, not-for-profits, deliver services that are highly tailored. They're specialized for the individual, such as software development, maybe it's a case-working type organization, or maybe it's a consultancy business. So there's many examples of those as well. If we come down to the bottom, these organizations at operational efficiency are typically like factories. They don't really care too much about what the customer wants, but they're really great at producing the same thing over and over again. Now, sometimes organizations are a little bit like wolf in sheep's clothing. Sometimes people say to me, oh, Virgin Airlines, you know what, that's really innovative, or it's very much about the customer. Can I tell you, they're actually about operational efficiency, but they give the feeling that they're about those other things. Dell computers, people say, oh, that's about mass customization. Really, Dell are very good down here, but they market it as if they live up in the top right. So when you're unpacking a value proposition for your organization and where it might fit on the triangle, try to differentiate between what you actually do and how you're perceived. So what I want to do is move over to a blank canvas and have a little bit of a look at organizations that might sit in different domains and how you with your team might map this out. So over here we've got a blank triangle. The first thing I ask participants in a workshop to do is say, tell me where you think your organization sits. Come and mark in the triangle where you think you are today. And many of them will come up and they'll have a bit of a think and they'll say, you know what, we don't create as many new products as we should, but we do know our customers really well and we get things done pretty well, so I'm going to put a mark here. So an example of that might be an education provider. They've known their market so well that they've been able to create education products to suit, but they roll them out really effectively. They're not necessarily innovative. The products might not be teaching the world how to provide a new solution or deliver a new intervention, but they're very much focused on what the market needs and they do it effectively. So they might mark themselves there. Another organization, let's talk about a provider of social services, might say, I wish I could do more individually, but our job is really just to make sure we help as many people as possible. You would see them mark themselves more down here. We also worked with an organization that provides disability services to young people of university age. They were very innovative in the way in which they created those services, and they did that by understanding what the young people needed and wanted, but the services were very different, so they couldn't get that into a machine or a mechanical mode. They would mark themselves probably somewhere along this path and mark themselves here. Now, as an analyst, I would look at that triangle and I would say a couple of things. First of all, are there any groupings from our team? Now let's presume that there's 3 dots from the one workshop. I'd say, okay, it looks like you're over here. Your organization sees itself as building products for your customer market, but doing so in a very effective way. That's how you are today. Another way to interpret the triangle is to draw a couple of lines through it which might help your thinking. So the first line I typically draw is a dotted line straight down the median. And I say, if you're on the left-hand side of that, you're probably more innovative. And what does a more innovative organization look like? Its organisational structure is typically networked. Small teams used to doing great little projects themselves and building products out of that. The culture is dynamic. Decision making is diffuse. Now, not many organisations actually practice that way, but that's what I would see them being more on that side. On this side of that line, I would see organisations to be much more about customer relationship. You would have structures, not hierarchical, but structures that focus the attention of the organisation on a customer. Maybe relationship managers, maybe lead caseworkers. That would be the kind of organisation you would have over there. Culturally, it would probably be very interpersonal. Quite a few extroverts at the front of that kind of an organisation. The second line for analysis that I draw is a horizontal line across here. And I look at this and I say, if you are down on this side of the line, you're very effective. You're the type of organisation that I would give an idea to and you would turn that into a process. You're probably quite hierarchical, you've probably got lots of procedure manuals, and you've probably got quite a bit of compliance wrapped around the organisation. Decision making is structured, and you would say that the culture is one of discrete activity. So often when we work with organisations, they can then align themselves in one of these quadrants, and they typically do. Now here's the interesting thing. We then say, at the very beginning of our ideation process, put away the logic for a minute. Intuitively, where do you think your organisation needs to go for viability and vitality? And then I ask people to mark crosses. And I can tell you, most people typically have an ambition to go into this quadrant. And we see a variety of crosses get put up like this. There is this natural belief in our organisational culture that innovation is good. Innovation is good, but it's not better than the others. And I'm going to explain a little bit of a theory that you really need to understand in working with your teams. It's called the virtuous cycle. If you know your customer well enough, if you really understand their problems and what value they want solved, you will innovate product. You will create product that differentiates you and creates new value for your stakeholders, for your consumers, or for the people who are dependent on your services. But the next thing you have to realize is creating new product is not good enough. You need to be able to then deliver it in a very sustained way and in a cost-effective way. So we see organizations then start to move in that direction. Natural and a feature of a maturing organization. But what happens next? It's traditional market economics. Other people flood into the market, and you're forced then to look for new things, which forces you to go back and talk to your customer and try and develop new products and services to meet their new value proposition. So, with that virtuous cycle in mind, I'm just going to remind you of a couple of things. First of all, when you're working with teams, you've marked out your original spot, then you've asked them to intuitively mark out where they should be. You explain the virtuous cycle to them, and then people typically moderate where their X's are, and they might then put them in different places. For the sake of today, we're going to leave it as it is. Now, I want to see this organization move from here to here, is what our workshop participants have said. They want to see that movement. So what does that mean? They want to see an organization that shifts to a network style structure, to devolved and diffused decision making, to one that is happy to take risks and try new things. Now, when you start a workshop and you explain that pathway to people, they typically understand the whole process of how we create value and where we're going to create that value. This tool is a really nice way of starting the ideas process off with a team. Again, have a look at it. So what have I explained to you? I've explained to you the value discipline as a tool. I've explained to you how to start it. I've given you a couple of case studies of organizations that might exist at each of the areas. And then we talked about intuitively where the participants want to go. The final thing you do is paint a picture that says, if you want to go there, this is roughly what you're going to look like. It's been great talking to you. We'll see you at the next Spark plugin. Thank you.